Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. It is 11:30, and in order to stay on time and make sure we get done in time, we will get rolling now. So I just want to, my name is Daryl Moorhead. I'm the Executive Director of BMA Colorado. I want to thank you all for attending today's event. This is something we hope to do more of going forward, and we appreciate you being part of our kickoff webinar today. For those of you that don't know us, BMA Colorado is a local professional organization aimed at building the profession of B2B marketing and all things related to it. We do this through local programming and professional development opportunities, both electronic and face-to-face, as well as providing the chance for marketers to network as they build their careers. I encourage you to check us out at bmacolorado.org if you haven't already, and consider membership in the organization, which for a very limited time until December 31st is only $150 a year. This is a very special rate, so special in fact that you can't find it online. If you're interested in it, please email me, Daryl at bmacolorado.org, and I will take care of the details for you. So without further ado, I would like to get things rolling for Untangling ABM. We actually held this event live in October, and it was such a hot topic that those that couldn't make it asked us if we could repeat it. Thus, our new webinar series was born. Our presenters today are Rob Bean and Nick Bettis from Refactored Media. Refactored is one of our gold partners, along with Demandbase, DU's University College, and Mission Suite, and our silver partner, Japs Olson. I'm happy to announce that Refactored just agreed to continue as a gold partner, which we very much appreciate. Our partners make it possible for us to continue to operate and offer the many great benefits that we do. I sincerely hope you will consider using each and every one of them when you have a need for their services. So for our speakers today, both from Refactored Media, Rob Bean has been a marketing leader for more than 2 decades, helping B2B organizations in industries ranging from manufacturing to mining to high tech achieve marketing goals that lead to hard revenue results. Pragmatic by nature, Rob is always looking to bring value to both his client as well as his client's client. Today, Rob is co-owner of the marketing agency Refactored, but maintains very hands-on responsibilities as the senior marketing strategist. Nick Bettis, with more than 20 years of experience designing and executing both broad-reaching and account-based marketing demand generation programs for companies of varying sizes and industries, has a broad knowledge of how to select, deploy, and execute marketing programs. Today, Nick continues his ABM focus by helping agency clients determine what the best demand generation strategy is, aligning the marketing, sales, and executive teams on that strategy, and then helping them execute a high ROI program. Thank you, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate that introduction, and thank you, everybody, for attending our webcast today. Before we get started, I just wanted to cover a couple of housekeeping pieces. We typically get a lot of questions, or these 2 questions, when we do webcasts, so I thought I'd just address them out of the gate. So please feel free to ask any questions during the webcast. We will get to as many of those questions as we can. At the end, you can access the Q&A tool through the navigation at the top of your screen, so ask those throughout. We would appreciate as many questions and be happy to address as many of those as we can. If there's any we can't get to, then we will be responding to those by email or by phone after the webcast. Also, we typically are asked if the deck will be available. We will certainly be emailing that out to everyone that registered for the webcast. Probably tomorrow you'll be receiving that. So let's start off with a quick poll. Daryl, if you could pull up that first poll for me, we'd like to start off with a little interaction here with the group. So have you ever interacted with sales rep and had them say one or more of the following comments to you? So while you're reviewing those questions and responding, I'll just say that, I certainly know what my answer would be here. It's been pretty consistent over my career. Rob, have you got any sense of over your career interacting with sales teams?
Yeah, I know exactly where most people sit in this area.
Yeah, it's pretty typical, but it'll be interesting to see what our audience has to say on this. So, Daryl, if it looks like we're winding down on our responses, we could probably go ahead and publish that. Great. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. The top two responses, what, about 92% of our attendees today are saying that their ears are either ringing with those comments or they hear them fairly frequently. So, and that's exactly what I would have expected. I've got, as Daryl said, 20 years of working with sales teams, and my door is always being opened and closed saying, I need more, I need better, I need different types of leads. But at the end of the day, what the sales team is saying when they're making these comments is, I just need the right type of leads. And in a lot of cases, a sales team is not going to know what type of lead it is that they need, and they need marketing to provide the guidance in order to define what success looks like from a demand generation perspective, get them on board with the types of leads that they need, and then be able to execute against the programs that will deliver those types of leads. So if we were to equate a lead to a duck, we might be able to say, as Douglas Adams, the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, once said, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, we have to at least consider the possibility we have a small aquatic bird of the family Anattadia on our hands. The only reason I can pronounce Anattadia is because my daughter's a biologist. What we're really saying here is, again, sales may not know what type of lead or duck that they want. Perhaps it looks like this mallard. Maybe it's this wood duck. Maybe it's this attractive fellow, or this blue-billed guy, or this truly ugly duckling. So what do we say to them when they may not know what they need? How do we work with them in order to determine what types of leads they're going to need? So the first thing I would recommend is always have a little compassion for your sales team. I know from a marketing perspective, I felt this before, but it's sometimes it's easy to look at them and say, wow, they make the big bucks, and they get the president's clubs, and they get the sales kickoff meetings and all, but they really are the lifeblood of the organization, the ones bringing the revenue in. So we have to have a little compassion with them. We have to align tightly with that group and build their trust so that they're willing to work with us to determine what types of leads that it is that we need to deliver to them. We can ask questions, and at the end of the day, we're going to come down to we need to deliver one of two types of programs. So what are the options here? So we can do what's typically broad-based demand generation strategies. Here, we're looking to deliver a wide variety of ducks, but in mass, in hopes that the sales team will be able to convert some of those leads into revenue over some specified period of time sales cycle. The other option is an account-based marketing strategy. In this case, what we're looking to do is deliver that one big duck that could change a salesperson's quarter, could change the sales quarter, could change the entire year for a sales team. That one big revenue hit that could change everything. So let's start off by talking about a little bit about what ABM really is. So according to TechTarget, account-based marketing is a B2B strategy that focuses sales and marketing resources on a target accounts within a specified market. Okay, kind of little dry. So let's try and break that down into a little more digestible format. So account-based marketing is focused sales and marketing resources across the entire buying team of a target organization, a specific set of named accounts with customized campaigns and messages designed to create engagement. So that leads us to another poll. So I'd like to ask the group, if we could, do you feel like, or do you currently have a dedicated ABM strategy in your organization? Now, this may be a little bit of a difficult question for you, and that's okay, because as we're going to see on our next slide, ABM is really still kind of in its infancy, or at least its adolescence. And while it's growing in popularity and importance, a lot of organizations, and that's why we're here today, don't know really how to apply it to their company. So take a look at our questions here and do a quick response, and we'll pull that up as soon as the responses start to taper off there, Daryl. All right, let's go ahead and put push that public if we could, Daryl. All right, so what we've got here is, all right, good. That's encouraging that a lot of people, it looks like everybody at least has some sense of whether there is an ABM strategy going on in their organization. We have a significant number that are saying, nope, we aren't doing it right now, but I suspect you're here because you want to determine if that should continue to be the case. And this is very encouraging that a large percentage of our attendants today say that they at least have kind of the basics of account-based marketing in place, at least they feel based on their current experience. So that's great, great information. So let's go ahead and move on to, for those that don't really know or don't have a strategy in place right now, let's just say it's not time to panic yet. So as I said in the previous slide, ABM is still getting its legs underneath it. According to the ITSMA, ITSMA, and ABM Leadership Alliance, they conducted a very comprehensive benchmarking survey on ABM. Only about half of ABM programs at this point within the surveyed group is still in their first year of executing ABM programs. Only about 17% of the people surveyed were actually well into it, into a third year of the experience. So you're not, this is not too late to get on the ABM bandwagon. Top challenges that they came up with was measurement of success, what the ROI on ABM is, personalization and customization programs, how to scale those types of programs, and of course, at the end of the day, we're always concerned about budget allocation. And then there were also very few companies on this survey that were actually leveraging technology to its full potential to scale ABM. Now, yes, it's still in its early stages, but it is growing, and for good reasons. Investment in ABM has nearly doubled over the last year across the survey participants. 45% are seeing at least double the ROI from ABM campaigns than they are from traditional content management type of programs. And that's going to vary depending on the company, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Broader benefits include customer service, more advocacy, and higher innovation within the organization. By focusing on and creating engagement with these accounts, you can create stronger relationships and create lifelong advocates for your company, get more case studies, more referrals, and also you're going to be getting more feedback on your products and services so that you can innovate more and provide even better services, and it starts to snowball. And then ABM principles are leading to more sophisticated sector marketing and demand generation campaigns. By focusing on these types of accounts and deeply understanding their business, it's enabling companies to perform better types of campaigns, more effective campaigns, and get more out of both types of both ABM and your broad-based.
And one of the things I'll add in here too, this is Rob, is that I think a lot of organizations who've been doing content marketing effectively may be at that stage where they had a really well-oiled plan, good machine going, and either they've reached a point where they've got a plethora of content, or they're trying to figure out what else can we say to our audience. And so to me, when you start looking account-based, you can start looking for some of the content gaps that might be in your plan. So if you think about a certain type of customer or a certain specific customer, you might look across your content and say, what do I have? What don't I have? When I go after this kind of account, what kinds of things do I need to be ready to say and prove? And so that can also help do two things. One, it can minimize the amount of content you're producing in a content marketing program because it's more specifically focused on those accounts. And it also helps you realize, oh, I might have a gap in somebody's understanding that I can cover with, say, a webinar or a white paper or some other kind of asset that helps to tell that very specific story. So, again, ABM can bring a lot of other advantages to a marketing program.
Yeah, it's a great point, Rob. And we've seen that in the clients we've worked with on the ABM. We're going to be covering kind of some case study situations with one of our clients today, but within that client, we've seen a real focus on identifying the types of content across the buyer's journey that they needed to develop in order to support an ABM program. So that's a great point. All right, so let's jump into what ABM is at a little more detailed level. So at the end of the day, according to ITSMA, there are 3 levels of account-based marketing. And these are, we love the pyramid aspect of this and the definition that this provides. So at the base of your pyramid here, you've got what's called Programmatic ABM. So this is what we call a one-to-many accounts or one-to-many strategy. So here you're talking about ABM at scale. So you're working with larger numbers of accounts, but you're focusing more on more generalized messaging. It's not really messaging that's specific to an account, but more perhaps to just an industry, for example. So you're providing them with customized content, but only at like an industry-based level. At the mid-tier of account-based marketing, we've got ABM Lite. So this is what we call one-to-few. So here we know a little bit more about the accounts. Using technology, we're able to scale up some customization and maybe some nurture programs and utilize what we know about them from a pain-based perspective and speak to them a little bit more at the level that they're interested in. Typically, you're looking at somewhere between maybe 50 and 100 accounts here that you can focus on with an ABM Lite. Kind of depends on the technology and the team that you've got to work with, but this is a little more customized and it's one-to-few. And at the top of the pyramid, we've got what most people consider the stereotypical types of ABM, which is strategic ABM. This is true one-to-one type of marketing, where we're focusing on single accounts or very small groups of account, maybe 1 or 2 accounts per sales rep, and we're creating customized account plans and messaging that speaks directly to that company. We're setting up web pages that are specific to the company, maybe even using logos if it's permissible by the account. Company names, so when they come to the website, they're getting messaging that makes them go, wait a minute, this company knows my business. So we're talking about specific one-to-one here. And typically with this pyramid, we're looking at, from an ROI and an investment perspective, there's a lower ROI at the bottom of the pyramid because we're not customizing as much. You might expect that. And at the high end, we might be dealing with larger companies that are a little harder to get into, but when they do come through, those are the ones that are going to change the quarter or change the year for the company. So we're going to get into each of these levels at a much more granular level, but I'm going to hand it over to Rob, and he's going to talk just a little bit at a high level about what we've been able to do with one of our accounts.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about one of our accounts, Infinity QS. Now, they are a leader in quality management software. If you think about what Google provides all of us marketers as it relates to analytics, you can kind of think about them as the Google Analytics in the manufacturing space. They provide tools that essentially, once they're plugged in, will help people understand the actual use and the quality and how different pieces of their manufacturing processes are actually executing. And so they bring tremendous value and revenue gains and reductions in waste to their customer base. They tend to work with customers that are global. They've got numerous top global manufacturers on their roster. And the work that we've been doing with them in account-based marketing is really the culmination of a 3-year kind of marketing evolution that they have made as a company. They really wanted to start with content marketing. We did a lot of work with them to kind of revitalize their brand and then bring about a content structure that would be able to speak to the 10 different industries that they work in at a pretty much a same level across all of those different industries. But the other thing about account-based marketing is, it's a very specific almost behavior that you have that tends to be very kind of customer-centric focused. And they definitely have that in their DNA as a company. Most of the product enhancements come directly from clients' needs. They understand the client's needs extremely well, and they express it through their software and the way they go to market. In fact, most of the entire customer-facing staff, this includes account executives and salespeople, are all at a level of Six Sigma black belts and green belts. Basically, that means they've got a commitment to work with customers at the level that those customers work at every day. So when you think about your approach to marketing, you want to make sure that you're also, you can apply yourself in that same way. So they've got a focus also on sales and marketing alignment. And so that's been a big part of where we have helped them go. So as it relates to their ABM program, again, this has come after a few years of content development and refinement to the brand and also the launch of a new product. We started working directly with both sales and marketing to really bring this new approach to marketing together. Now, we are managing a broad-based lead gen for them as well, and all of that continues as we work on the ABM piece. So as it relates to ABM, we've got 7 7 sales account managers that are involved in this. There's a little over 900 accounts that are being targeted, and those accounts are a mixture of prospects and customers. And I think that that's a pretty common thing that you'll find if you're looking at an account-based program. You maybe have some really big whales that if you could land them would be great opportunities to grow your business. But many times, our businesses can grow as fast or faster by just looking at existing customer base, and they certainly have that opportunity to land and expand. For instance, some of the brands might have upwards of 200 or 300 factories around the world. Well, their products may only have representation in maybe a handful. And so the opportunity to really go to market and tell that story of change at the plants that they're already working with can add numerous other factories in line and becomes a large revenue driver for the year for them. So on the marketing side, we've got 6 marketing members that are involved, and really the focus there is how do we use those existing assets and content to tell a new kind of story, to tell a very customized story. And just like a lot of the pieces of everybody's buyer journey, much of this is focused on digital. And so we're also part of this marketing team. And so our job has been really to help create any of the gaps in custom content, certainly banners, web pages, emails, and other digital advertising that's all helping to drive the program. So we've been working together on all of that. So we got about 13 people in this organization that are all kind of working in synchronization to pull this whole thing off. If we look at the structure of their program, and I won't go into too much detail here, but in general, if you think about those levels, what they've decided to do is we've got about 850 accounts that are in that programmatic level. These are accounts we don't know a ton about. All we know is that they're on the top 1,000 manufacturers in the globe. They would have need for the services and products that Infinity QS offers. And so we have basically on a programmatic basis tried to get them to the appropriate pages on the website once they're identified. On the light side, we've got 75 accounts there, and those accounts, we had enough information that we could actually create semi-customized pages. And so this is just like Nick had mentioned, we're using their logo, we've actually written some headlines and some subhead information, we have some pain-focused messaging and some solutions-oriented messaging, and where applicable, we've got like quotes and things like that that really help tell that story really well. And again, that could be for a existing customer, or it could be for a brand new prospect. But either way, they're treated with sort of this top of the page is very much about them, and the bottom of the page gets to be a little bit more industry generic. And then finally, on the strategic accounts, we've got 8 expansion opportunities that we're working with right now. And so these are extremely customized experiences. Think of these more like microsites where there's custom resources and different things like that that are made available. All of these different options essentially can help kick the sales, that helps the sales team kick doors open. There's a custom story that's been written about this company, and so they can share these pages out and tell people basically represent what their best case would be as a partner. So we talk a little bit about kind of how now this is really talking very specifically to the web interaction with ABM. ABM is a much broader set of techniques, which include everything from day-to-day interactions from the sales team with prospects and customers, all the way through to how they behave online. So we're going to talk just a little bit about how we handle site personalization with them. So as people come in the top here, we are looking at their IP and revealing who they are. We compare that information with the account list that we're managing, and then right now, if you're just a standard customer, you're going to see this this banner for their Enact solution. But if you're on our account list, you'll see that banner swaps out, as do a number of banners around the website. So if you want to release that. So we've got banners all around the website that start to swap out, and we're really inviting those customers to come in and hear this custom story. Again, the other thing that we're swapping out with them is the reps information. We've at the bottom of all the pages, we've got these CTAs that are really guiding people to the most common next step activities. if you are on the account list, you essentially, and you have a rep assigned, we're also even swapping out the rep's photo to make sure it's a very personalized experience. And then once you click on one of those banners, you're taken to the correct page of choice, depending on whether you're strategic or you're light or you're programmatic. And finally, we make sure that we're following up with the sales team. So we've got a series of alerts that basically tell the sales team that they've got an account that's sitting on the website right now. And we're actually working on some enhancements to integrate with their live chat offering as well. And we're looking to always improve that sales interaction.
All right.
So in general, yeah, that's sort of the program that we've got from a website personalization perspective, and we'll dig into a little bit about how we're launching the program as we move forward.
All right, great. Thanks, Rob. So let's dive into a little bit deeper into each of the levels of ABM, what the programs might entail, the types of tactics you could use, these sorts of things. And just as a reminder, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to put those into the Q&A tool, and we'll get to those at the end. But I'm not seeing any questions just yet. So let's if you've got anything at all, put them in there, and we'll get to them here in a bit. So programmatic ABM. Let's start at the bottom of that pyramid. So again, this is a one-to-many strategy, and what I like to look at this as kind of the foundation of ABM, and it's also an incubator. So we're looking to go to the accounts we may not know a lot about here. We're more industry-based, as Rob mentioned, messaging. But what we're trying to do here is we're warming them up. We're seeing if we could pick some low-hanging fruit, but we're also warming them up. So as we're moving things out of the light level and out of the strategic level, we've got some companies that we've already been pinging with messaging that we can promote into a higher level and maybe accelerate the ABM process. So here, the number of accounts is only limited to how many accounts you've got information on, and you don't have to have a lot of information on them. Really, you only have to have, for example, an industry, know what industry your list is in order to launch this type of program. There's typically lower personalization because we don't know that much about them. These are typically highly automated, much more scalable. And they're usually used in conjunction with other types of ABM as air cover, and again, as an incubator to move companies up through the process. As we mentioned on the pyramid, they typically have a lower ROI because they're not as customized, but they still, according to ITSMA, have a higher ROI in general than a broad-based program for the right type of company. So let's take a look at, again, maybe something that Infinity QS had done. So again, this is industry-based. So in this particular case, we were talking about a food and beverage company, industry-based web customization. We've created a series of nurture emails for this, again, with messaging based on industry pains, typical industry pains. And our call to action here is a broader call to action. We're going to see as we move through this that these are going to get more specific and more robust on the offer and the call to action. But here, for example, there's going to be industry-specific assets as offers, maybe recorded webcasts or online demos are going to be what we're going to be offering them to consume in order to identify them as an interested prospect. And just as an example of how we might move these folks through the process, we would create campaigns that might include organic inbound, so people are just Googling. So we've got SEO activities that would cause people to come to that homepage, be presented with the banner, and be moved through their limited customization. We've also got those industry-based nurture emails that are going on in order to drive traffic. We're offering them a high value, but not highly customized offer. And then again, their web experience is reasonably customized when they get to that homepage banner, and as Rob said, ads throughout the site. And then the final message is they're routed to their appropriate industry page where we can track them, and again, alerts can be sent over to the sales team that there are people on the site that they might be interested in.
And we're also, with the Infinity QS campaign, some of the organic inbound we're also doing some highly directed inbound ads as well. So in LinkedIn, where we can leverage both company account names, but also email addresses of contacts we may have at those companies, we're actually, during this Q4 period, we've been providing a series of LinkedIn ads where we're marketing assets that people would get off the website through LinkedIn. So that's another way that you can think about, even with a programmatic account, where all you might know is a company name and a match on industry. If you've done some research into some of the email addresses and contacts, you can use both of those pieces to highly target people by title as well, all from the LinkedIn system.
All right, so let's move on and talk a little bit about light ABM. So this is the mid tier of our pyramid, and these particular accounts, these are ones that we typically know a little more information about. The sales team might have done some research on them before, maybe the marketing team's done some research. We've had some limited interactions with them, or in Infinity QS's case, they might be an account that we've got an expansion opportunity with, in which case we know a lot about them. So we know what the pains typically are going to be at these accounts, and we can customize our messaging a little more. So we've got moderate personalization here. They're largely automated again. We're typically talking maybe 50 to 100, maybe a little more, depending on your organization, the number of accounts that we can target. But we're still going to have to largely automate this, because one-to-one interactions is going to be complicated with this at this scale. It's somewhat scalable, but potentially with more direct interaction from the sales team, you're going to see a little higher ROI on this, because again, we're creating a more customized experience for them as they're hitting our website and with our messaging, maybe our nurture programs and such. And again, this also can serve as an incubator for our strategic accounts. We're already seeing this as we're working with Infinity QS, we're moving one account out of strategic. We're going to be moving one off of the light accounts in, because they've already been warmed up. So this is a great incubator for our strategic accounts. So as an example of what a plan for this level might be, again, we've got website customization at a pain-based level, not just to industry. We've got targeted digital campaigns, as Rob was mentioning. We've got that as air cover going on to keep brand at top of mind as they're navigating through the web. Pain-based nurture email. So we've got a whole series of, we bucketed out the pains for Infinity QS that we felt that all of their accounts were feeling one of these pains, and we assigned each account a pain, and we created nurture programs to that pain and started those in order to create engagement. We've got potential teleprospecting going on here, whether that be internal to the company or an outsourced, in order to try and create engagement. Dimensional direct mail becomes an option at this level. We're dealing with a smaller number of accounts, and we can talk about dimensional direct mail that speaks directly to a pain. So that becomes an option at this level. And again, our calls to action stay fairly high level. We might be talking about regional events in mass, so multiple accounts where we've got concentrations of light accounts within an area. We can do a regional event, a roadshow. Again, webcasts and videos and demo offers are still an option at this level for offers. And then on the right here, you've got kind of an example of what we've done with Infinity QS, where we took each of their accounts and we assigned them into one of these buckets of pains, and that's what our nurture campaigns were built off of. So from a flow perspective for a light account, the campaigns look like we've still got organic, and we've got pain-based nurture programs, possibly direct mail in order to create that initial engagement. We've got a slightly higher value or customized call to action and offer that we're providing to them as we're talking to them. Their initial web experience, as we saw a few minutes ago when Rob was talking, is a little more customized. We've got their logos and specific content on the banners and on their home pages. So they're getting more of a sense that we understand their business, and they want to, and we can help them with a pain that we've identified as they likely have. And then again, as they get to that final page, it's much more customized to what they're looking for. So that's what a light ABM might look like. This is not comprehensive, but this is what what the flow might look like in some of the types of texts that you might use. So strategic ABM, let's talk a little bit about the top of this pyramid. So this again is true one-to-one type of account-based marketing. So these are highly personalized web pages, messages, email programs, digital ads are all much more highly personalized. Very limited automation at this level. We don't want our marketing automation system blasting out emails on a regular basis when the account managers might be engaging with them. At any given moment, the account might call them, and we don't want them to be receiving automated emails right after they've already engaged with us. We don't want to take that risk at all. So this is very limited automation. Very marketing and sales intensive. Typically, you've got marketing resources assigned directly to sales reps here, and we're creating account plans that are specific to accounts, and we're executing on those on a very consistent basis. Very high potential ROI here, again, because you're targeting your very, very best accounts. Again, so let's look at what this effort might look like. So again, single account action plan, and I'm actually going to show one of these here in just a few minutes that we created for InfinityQS, what that plan might look like. Deep web customization to the specific needs of the account. Since we know so much about these accounts, we've done our homework, we know what they're needing. We've got our targeted digital air cover going on. Sales is delivering email nurture programs, again, through the rep though. So they're putting these out on a consistent basis, but marketing might have created the template emails, and we can create the messages that we think are going to resonate and provided those to the sales team to send from their account as opposed to being automated. We've got scheduled momentum building teleprospecting from the rep. Again, we don't want other people doing this job. This is a sales rep's job at this point. We've got potentially broader direct mail options going on here. Another option for this is to engage your corporate executive team and try and get them to look through their LinkedIn profiles and see what connections they might have at these accounts and reach out directly to them at the highest levels in order to kind of push it down from the top, the engagement instruction. You can also talk to any champions you might have in the organization, especially if it's an account that you've already landed and you're looking to expand. Reach out to the champion you have there, the people that you're already working with, and have them help you get into other parts of the organization. In some cases, you can offer them some kind of a reward for that efforts, and others, they might just be willing to help you out because you've been such a good vendor for them. So, and your call to action here is typically very, very one-to-one, very high level. So for example, with InfinityQS, we came up with a specific offer that was a quality audit where they would bring a very senior person from their team out and the sales rep and do an audit of a specific line and help them understand how it's performing and what modifications they might be able to do in order to increase the productivity or the efficiency of that line. And then all we ask in return is you need to sit your quality team down and let us present the results to you. So that's just an example of the type of offer you can come up with at this level. Since it's a small group of accounts, it can be much higher value.
And generally speaking, I mean, these offers are going to be very different by each business type, but, the idea is that the offer that we've put in front of their customers is something that's highly valuable. It is something that also is the kind of thing that turns the corner in the sales process. As soon as a manufacturer can see their data and how it can be impacted, many times they don't even understand what is going on within their plant. They take reporting many times on paper, and on a day-to-day or by snapshot basis, they know what's going on, but they probably have never had the visibility across the entire organization or across the entire line before. And so many times this is the first time they've had visibility to this, and it literally changes the conversation like right away. So we know that though this offer is one of those things that is going to be time consuming and so forth, we know that it also is one of those things that will generate sales for them and drive that home. So the idea is that you'd be thinking about the kinds of offers that match your customer type, what kinds of things entice them and really light their eyes up. When do they have that aha moment? And you try to create those experiences around that kind of sales aha moment.
Great. Thanks, Rob. All right, and how this campaign flow might be, I'll go through this quickly. Again, we've got our organic inbound activity going on, but we've also got rep-directed emails. We might have direct mails. There's some technology out there that will allow you to automate direct mail a little bit, so you understand when things are being delivered, and you can map out when an email that lands in their inbox that says you're going to be receiving a package. You receive the package, then you get an email from the rep the next day, and then a phone call the following day. So there's technologies out there that will help you do that. And then rep-directed teleprospecting going on. The offer, again, is very high value, very one-to-one offer. Initial web experience when they get there is very personalized, and then that they're directed to their final customized landing page, much like we saw with the Coca-Cola page earlier. So as I said, I was going to show you an account plan. So this is an account plan that we've created for one of our reps at Infinity QS, Chris Perez, and I've taken the names out here. But generally what we're trying to do here is we're talking about where the account has been, where it currently is, and then what the opportunity with that account is. We want to map this out very clearly. And then based on what the opportunity is, we're creating a strategy, as we're seeing on line 9 here. And it might be a multi-year strategy, even getting people engaged at one level to it might even be a situation where we're resolving a customer satisfaction problem first, and then we're going to move into an expansion after we've got the CSAT situation figured out. So this might be a multi-year strategy. We outline kind of what the general messaging is for the campaigns. And then what we're doing here is I'm going over this. This is an account plan that we have a meeting with each sales rep every other week, and we go over this plan, and we hold each other accountable for what the next step is in order to engage with this particular prospect. So in this case with Chris, we were working with an organization that they had a footprint in already. They were working with one particular product, and we needed to get them up and running on that before we moved into the next phase. So we've created a series of messages, and we've seen some success with this already. So just with the initial emails from Chris and some phone work with him based on the messaging we've already seen success with this account and getting them up and running on the products that they already owned. And we've got the internal champion working with us to take us to the next level and get into some of the other accounts. So the other things we're looking at is, for the next steps, maybe some direct mail next year, expanding the telemarketing, private events, and then we're also kind of went off the screen here, but we're talking about doing a webcast with them that's just for this account. So messaging specifically to the things we know that this account needs to resolve, and do a webcast. And there's already been great interest in that type of engagement with the account. But again, what we're talking about here is holding the sales and the marketing people are holding each other accountable for delivering the things on a schedule in order to create engagement. So, all right, how do we select this? Is this a one? Do we need to select one? Can we do 2 or 3 or 4? So just as an example, so if you've got a company that is perhaps only doing business with the Fortune 50, you've got a very small addressable market to work with. In that case, a strategic ABM probably makes the most sense, because you can take deeper dives into those types of accounts, and across the buying committee, and get lots of information on those accounts, because you've got the resources to do it at that scale, and focus on a strategic ABM approach. If you've got a situation where you've got a large group of addressable markets, but your sales team maybe is not as much of a hunting organization as others, or you can't get buy-in from the sales team, might be another example, then as a marketing team, you can go down the path of programmatic or light without including the strategic component. So this becomes an option as well. If you've got a situation where you've got a large addressable market, but you don't have a lot of information about those accounts, maybe you just know industry about 1,000 accounts, you can do the research on maybe 5 or 6 with your reps and get more information on that small group of accounts, and do a strategic ABM program, but also do a programmatic. But since you don't really have much information about the bulk of those accounts, it might be harder to do a light account. So you can do this type of situation. Or, as Infinity QS did, maybe you've got the whole gambit. You've got a large number of addressable accounts, you've got quite a bit of information on them, but you've also got those game changer accounts, and you can do a strategic program as well. So it boils down to what you know about your company, what resources you've got within the organization, and other pieces, which we're actually going to go into. Just 4 questions you can ask to kind of identify if ABM is right for you and which level here in just a few minutes.
So Nick, before we leave the Infinity QS story, I want to, there's been a couple of quick questions I want to just reference real fast. So there was a question out about the assessments that were offered to strategic accounts, and how many of those have come through. And I just want to talk a little bit about timing on some of that. Our program actually started mid-October with an official digital launch November 1st. So the program is relatively young. And so what they have done with most of that very kind of high touch offer is they're holding that off till Q1. There was basically some scheduling issues trying to get that really adequately launched right around 2 holidays. And so they've decided to kind of hold off on that until they can get into January, where getting into a facility makes a little bit more sense. So the things I will share on kind of initial results, because we've actually had quite a bit of really big impact, even as young as the campaign is. One is kind of even pre-launch of the program, the sales team attitude and the collaboration with marketing was just like, it's always been a good relationship. I would say it went from good to more like a great relationship. I think the sales team appreciated having a voice at the table. I think they really saw an opportunity for their accounts to get the kind of attention that they feel is there, where it's like, I need these resources is something that you can say, but unless you have a reason behind, I need this for X, Y, and Z, or I'm trying to set up a meeting to do this, this, and this, without that specific and the specificity around the plan, sometimes that stuff can fall off the radar. So, we've seen a lot of that go on now that we're now collaborating on such a regular basis. The other thing is there's been some immediate changes in the sales process. They started actually applying ABM to some of the accounts that they had some struggles with. There were some places where there had been some consolidation, and so there was like a new owner of that company. And so they wanted to know, hey, why are we using this software for quality management? Let's do a review. And so they were actually able to use the ABM effort to go back in and somewhat repitch to a customer that has a new set of people at the top. But after we've launched the program, we are seeing quite a bit of activity from all of our target accounts on the site. The sales reps have daily access to see what's going on with the relationship, what pages they're hitting, how much they're coming. Again, we've got those alerts that tell them that they're on the site so that they can interact via chat. So a lot of great opportunities for them to engage with that. And then finally, we are seeing quite a few folks using their customized page. There's specific campaigns that are planned for Q1 that more specifically address getting people to that content. But again, people are finding that content when they hit the site and they are seeing banners that are about them. So anyway, just wanted to cover just a couple of the quick logistical pieces around their story before we moved on.
Great. Thanks, Rob. All right, so let's move right on to the 4 questions that I mentioned a minute ago. So here's 4 questions you can ask about within your organization, some research you can do in order to identify if ABM is right for your company, and if so, which level might be right. So the first thing you can ask is, what's the price point of your product? Typically what we see is if you've got a price point of your product or service that's going to run a lifetime value, let's say of $10,000 or more, ABM is probably a pretty good option for you. You're going to see if the ASP is at 10,000, you're probably on the high end. There's probably a multiple of that, and at that level, ABM starts to make sense from an investment perspective. So ask yourself, is the price point sufficient to provide a high enough ROI? What's the universe of addressable targets we've got to go after? Expansion accounts or prospects are on the table here. Again, if you've got a large number, then the bottom of the pyramid, your programmatic accounts are in play. But if you've got a very small number, then you're probably looking at a strategic account. So this will help you identify which level might make sense. Does sales have a complicated or elongated sales process? If it does, then ABM might make sense also, because once they engage with your salespeople, it tends to accelerate the sales process. So if you've got a complicated sales process, ABM is probably a good option as well. And then finally, does your company have marketing resources to support an ABM program, or is the organization willing to invest? So again, at the highest level, at strategic level, you're looking at a one-to-one relationship between, maybe not one-to-one, but a very tight relationship between a marketing resource and a sales resource. If you don't have that kind of combination in place, then you might be looking at staying at a light or a programmatic level of ABM. So those are 4 questions that kind of get you started on this. We'd be happy to talk with you if you'd like more information on evaluating what your ABM strategy might look like. So just to wrap this up, we'll have a few questions, time for questions, and I know Rob wants to go and just do a quick debrief on Infinity QS and what they've been seeing. But just to wrap up, ABM is not for everyone. Certainly, we're not advocating for that. If you've got a highly transactional business, ABM probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But for a lot of companies, it really does, and the results of the growth in ABM that we're seeing reflect that. ABM requires sales and marketing to be tightly aligned, and can have broad-reaching benefits, including customer satisfaction and retention levels. So ABM really does kind of span the entire sales process, even past purchase. A mix of inbound and outbound and ABM strategies can be synergetic. They can snowball and create momentum. For those with certain ideal customer profiles, it might be critical to pursue ABM. Looking for that great big ugly duck might just be the only thing that's going to make the company successful. And as I've heard from salespeople before, today's record is tomorrow's quota. You land one of these accounts, and then the next time you're going to have to land 2 because the numbers never go down. There are ways to implement ABM for most companies, whether they be have 1,000 target addressable accounts or 5. There are ways to implement ABM. So with that, I want to give it back to Rob, and he'll do a quick summary of how Infinity QS got this off the ground. He'll give you some actionable tips on how you might be able to adapt to this as well.
Sounds good. The first is really that collaboration I mentioned. It's important that before you get an ABM effort going, that you talk with sales, talk about what that commitment and the resource outlay is going to be. Every company is a little bit different on how they allocate resources, both financially and time, to an ABM program, but you definitely want to make sure you've got extremely good commitment and lay out a plan that basically says, these are who we're going to go after, and this is the level of effort, and make sure that those teams are aligned from a process perspective. The next thing is we want to also make sure that you've got executive buy-in. Generally speaking, ABM is something that does have a lot of buy-in from the top, and so this is as long as you come with a good plan. Generally speaking, there's a lot of places, and we can certainly help you get with some of the resources around numbers and so forth. If you're needing help making a buy-in to an executive team, that tends to be a story that is pretty easily told. I think you also need to kind of look at the tool set. Everybody looks at tools almost first, and we really try to encourage people to look at tools more like mid-range, how we're going to get this done, but really focus more on the story. What's the level of personalization we need to have? How do we want to have people behave? And then we look at tools that fit into that. That could be a chat tool. It could be an email marketing tool. It could be your CRM. It could be programmatic display options or other kinds of digital advertising, and then also things like site personalization. So you really need to kind of figure out what your strategy is, how the customer needs to be talked to, and how you start that conversation with them, and then you can figure out what tools best support that for your particular company and how you sell. And then I would definitely expect decent amount of ramp-up time. The program that we did for Infinity QS to get it off the ground technically started about 6 months before we launched, but we really didn't get going till about 3 months before. So, for 900 accounts, we got all the structure together, content writing together, all the infrastructure put together in a pretty quick order for the magnitude of their program. But I would be looking, depending on how broad your program is, anywhere between 3 and 4 months is pretty common for a ramp-up period to launch. And then also, you know, we would definitely recommend starting small, look for quick wins and build momentum. Maybe not do a program the size of Infinity QS. They really did bite off a lot. But again, they've got the resources to manage a program of that size. And so finally, I want to talk just a little bit about exactly how we handle the personalization side of the Infinity QS piece. So we actually looked, can you back up a slide real quick? So we looked at the set of tools. We already had some chat pieces in place. We had email marketing pieces in place. What we really needed was a way, in fact, we also had a large digital program in place that could be tweaked. What we needed was the ability to identify users on the site and then personalize their content. We looked around the market, and the only things we could really find were going to create a huge, they were going to basically take a lot of the resources that had been defined for the program. So we built Compass ABM, which is a tool that Refactored's put together to basically help people identify and prospect folks off their site, plus deliver that high touch personalization at scale. Moving on here, so where we fit into the ABM structure, through services, we can help with account planning and process, persona messaging and content development, and then where the tool really comes to life is around that whole account ID and personalization piece. So kind of moving on. So the core pieces of how we help drive ROI, one is we help manage target important accounts, and the platform helps you organize that list of accounts. So targeting, attraction. So many folks are already doing broad-based digital programs now. Those can all be tweaked so that some portion of that spend is carved off for ABM, and that can mean using a product like Terminus, or it could just mean if you're managing like a LinkedIn or your Google, you can adjust those numbers and focus a little bit more on personalizing content. Thirdly is to identify. So our technology, IP-based, we look at those users via IP. We feed back a bunch of firmographic information that can help you do prospecting, but also then the site personalization across the site. That's where we go with the engagement. So all of that level, that ability to even look as many as 1,000 accounts and personalize messages, personalize look and feel, personalize imagery, all of that stuff can be handled at scale. And then finally, the alerting functionality to make sure that your sales team and the rest of the marketing team who needs day-to-day knowledge of how their customers are interacting online, they've got that ability to do that.
Great. All right, thank you, Rob. Let's get on and we'll do some quick questions. We've got a few questions that have come in. If you've got any questions in the meantime, go ahead and put them in and we'll try and get to them. But let's start off with a question that we've actually heard before. So how do you not make the client-specific pain points on the landing pages not sound creepy or salesy? And then a follow-on to that is, and not offend them if they really don't know what their pain points are currently. Well, you know, we're making some assumptions here typically, unless we've got really good engagement with these accounts as to what their pain points are. So we might not be right, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is when they do get to our website, we want to create some kind of an engagement with them. And you know, we've heard this question before: is it creepy stalker marketing, or you know, are people insulted by this? And we've not experienced that. And I think today with the technology, people understand that this type of technology is available to identify who they are, at least at an account level when they come in. And we have not had any kind of negative feedback from the accounts that we're targeting that we're doing some kind of you know, inappropriate identification of them. In fact, they've appreciated the fact that we've spoken directly to them and we've gotten their attention. And then, you know, once they get to that landing page and we're talking about pain points, we're not being overly salesy with our messaging there. We're simply saying these are the types of things that our product or service can help a company like XYZ resolve. And if it is the appropriate pain, then great, we've hit the target square in the middle. And if it's not, maybe we're bringing up something that is a little it might be in the back of their mind, but hasn't come to the forefront yet, or we're suggesting that this is something that they might want to take a look at.
Yeah,
So,
and I would add
yeah.
to that, I would also say that, this is a brand that's been around for 30 years. They're the top in the industry. They're globally recognized. And so, they have a lot of experience. And so when they're looking at a new, say, food and beverage account, they have seen so much of the behavior. So if you've got a client that's coming from a paper-based process system, they know the things that they're struggling with inherently. And so there might be nuance to that, but we don't get into the nuance. We let the sales team get into the nuance. So all of the kinds of promises that are made and some of the general pains that are talked about are serious systemic pains within these industries. And so that's about the depth we go. We want to make sure we make the right connection. And then we are showcasing the case studies and all the history in that particular industry so that, we're not overbearing on the solutions that we're representing, even if we haven't talked to them yet. But in many cases on the light strategic, we have actually talked to those accounts and we're looking to grow accounts. So we might even have specific knowledge of exactly what their problem is because somebody at that facility has shared something. So it's something it's going to depend. Your strategy would be very different. It just depends on your strategy.
Yeah, and I would add to that just as a final comment that if you're targeting client accounts, do be a little cautious of using their logo and their name. Some accounts have legal issues with using those logos and names, even if it's only targeting their company. So just be a little respectful of that if you're targeting existing accounts. You don't want to offend anybody, or cause any kind of legal issues with an existing customer. So just keep that in mind as well. Let's try and get to two more quick questions here. What are the specific criteria or tracking criteria that you use to measure ABM ROI? So I would look at this from both a macro and a micro perspective. At a micro perspective, I would, the typical types of campaign-specific metrics that you use to identify how the nurture programs are performing, open rates and click-to-open ratios and conversion rates. You can look at all of those maybe a program-by-program basis. But then at the campaign level, at the macro level, what you really want to be looking at is what type of pipeline growth are we getting within those specific accounts? What kind of sales engagement are we getting? What kind of revenue are we seeing? And that's only going to come, especially at the strategic level, by talking to your salespeople, finding out what kind of conversations they've had offline. I mean, we get more feedback just in those short meetings, those short bi-weekly meetings with sales, on what the kind of engagement we're getting than we do with all the analytics that we get from the websites. So unless you're talking about programmatic, then it's mostly coming from those analytics. But yeah, looking at it both macro and a micro perspective, and just looking at it from an engagement perspective. And then maybe we'll do one quick last one. Any tips on how to get executive buy-in on an ABM program? We probably need a strategic ABM program, but it looks like we need more resources to pull it off. So here I would say, start with the sales team. Talk with your sales team, build some consensus around what type of demand generation program makes sense for you. If you bring the metrics that we've maybe mentioned here, or do some research, or you can contact us, we can give you some more metrics around the type of success that people see with ABM. You can usually get the sales team on board pretty quickly. And then you can do your research and provide data to support and program back to the executive team in order to get the funding or the types of resources that you need to execute. Typically, an executive team will be receptive to a conversation if they hear sales needs something. So I would go down that path when you're dealing with the executive team. And then finally, you can always say, right, we're going to start small and pilot this and work with a small number of accounts on a strategic level, or you maybe even just start off with a programmatic effort in order to prove value and then build from there. So those are the tips that I'd give on working and getting the executive team on board. So, well, I think we're at the end of our time here. I really want to thank everybody for taking an hour out of their end of your schedule. I know it's been busy and with planning and the holidays and all, but I really appreciate you being here with us today. If you've got any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm just nick@refactoredmedia.com, and I'll get back to you right away. Again, the deck will be sent out to you either today or tomorrow, so you can review this at your leisure, and the recording will be available as well. So thank you once again, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.